It's appearing very likely that Australia is about to be the first country on planet Earth to tax electric cars. I don't mean as a state on an individual basis like Victoria does. I mean as an entire country. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. Great to see you. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Sam Evans. Great to see you. Welcome to all the new subscribers. Welcome back, everyone else. A little bit of a sad day for me. I am an Australian. I'm not one of those people who says that they're, you know, when people's parents are born somewhere else and so they claim that they're therefore not from the country that they were born in, they're from that country, even though they were, I don't do that. I was born here, even though my father was born elsewhere. So I'm an Australian. So I'm a little bit embarrassed to hear this kind of thing coming from the Australian government. They clearly don't understand the health benefits to electric cars. The health benefits to going green, and not just some sort of like hippy dippy kind of like, let's save the planet and all that stuff. Don't get me wrong, I'm not against people that talk like that. As you guys know, I don't talk like that at all. I talk very factually, and to me the facts say we need to change. We need to start preventing cancer. We need to start preventing heart disease. A lot of the noise coming from highways is a significant contributor to heart attacks. If you live near a highway, you're about 70% more likely to have a heart attack than someone else. Noise. Now, obviously, if those vehicles are fully electric, that helps with that issue. Of course, emissions. You know that emissions in Australia have been rising. It's not a result of the coal factories, which are shutting down, and renewable energy is continuing to improve. So our emissions from our energy are declining. But unfortunately, our emissions from our car fleet are growing significantly. And it's far worse than what you think, because so many people remove the DPF filters on their diesel-powered cars. Therefore, those diesel-powered cars with their DPF filters that have been removed are about 50 times worse than what people count them as. That's very common. Trucks, cars, all kinds of vehicles have those removed. Big problem. And anyway, regardless of this, the future, my friends, is electric. The future is something that Australians appear reluctant to embrace, or at least the Australian politicians do anyway. Australian Treasurer, who is basically, for you guys in America, he's very highly ranked in terms of his position in the Australian government. His name's Jim Chalmers, and he's indicated the federal government could introduce an electric car tax designed to replace revenue lost from fuel taxes or gasoline, petrol taxes, as more motorists move away from petrol and diesel vehicles. As of the 1st of August 2023, the fuel tax, which is added to the price at the petrol and diesel pump, is 48.8 cents per litre. So that's around about $2 per gallon. The 2022 federal budget projected the fuel excise, which cost 44.2 cents per litre at the time, to bring in $60 billion to the Australian government's revenue stream from 2022-23 and 2025-26 financial years. However, with an increasing number of EVs on Australia's roads, the government will soon need to find a way to reduce the amount of tax revenue lost from petrol and diesel fuel excise. But is that really true? Is that really necessary? If you think about it, there is actually an alternative to this. The government is pretending as though there isn't. They know there is. They know exactly what those alternatives are. And of course, they know that they don't necessarily need all of this money from fuel excises. In fact, we'll save billions of dollars by embracing EVs and renewable energy quicker. Anyhow, speaking at the National Press Club, Dr. Chalmers hinted at a tax on electric cars being implemented, though with no certainty about when that would happen. I think in the next few years, an increasing focus, certainly of our government, and most likely governments will follow us, will be the public policy challenge, this revenue challenge, this challenge to the revenue base, he said. A big part of this is states related. There's a court case underway right now which goes to the core of this. And he's referring to the court case in Victoria. The Victorian government is basically in court right now People are fighting against the tax on EVs in Victoria, and it appears as though it's very possible they could lose that case. The government went on to say, our focus for the time being is a couple of strategies that Minister for Transport Catherine King and Minister for Climate Change and Energy Chris Bowen are working up when it comes to the broader environment and infrastructure for electric vehicles. No doubt at some point, probably relatively soon, by which I mean in the next few years, our government, will turn our mind to taxing EVs. The court case Mr. Bowen referred to is the High Court challenge against Victoria's controversial electrified car road user charge tax, which was formally backed by the federal government in July 2022. In Victoria, the road user charge, they call it, which is the road user tax, known formally as the Zero and Low Emission Vehicle Road User Fee, requires owners of EVs to record the number of kilometres travelled each year and pay a tax on that distance in addition to vehicle registration costs. From the 1st of July 2023, Victoria's road user charge was increased from 2.6 to 2.8 cents per kilometre. So for every kilometre you drive an electric car in Victoria, if you buy that car in Victoria, but for every kilometre you drive that EV outside of Victoria as well, you get charged around about 3 cents. The shift away from internal combustion, petrol, gasoline and diesel engines comes with serious revenue consequences for the federal government, it's said. Motorists expect this money to be used to build and maintain the nation's roads, and as things stand, it mostly is. Now, that isn't actually true, but anyhow, that's for another story. In coming years, as more people buy EVs, the fuel excise will collapse. Unless we want to watch our roads fall into disrepair, we must reform the way we tax transport. Through the first 6 months of 2023, sales of electric cars in Australia increased by an incredible 345% versus the previous year. That's an amazing number. However, is it true that therefore the government is losing money and that therefore eventually they'll be losing tens, if not nearly $100 billion per year? No, of course not. It's absolutely ludicrous because Australia is not a fuel producing country. We import almost all of our fuel. So if you were to drive an electric car and you were to create that energy here in Australia, well, a lot of that money goes to Australia. It doesn't go to some foreign company, to Saudi Arabia, or to China, or some oil producing country. The money stays here in Australia. That electricity is bought from an Australian electricity grid. Or if it's produced by you, that's great. But the reality is that most electricity will come from electricity providers. All of that money stays in Australia. So none of these calculations include facts. And the facts are that actually, if we were to transfer to EVs and renewable energy, meaning we create all of our own energy using the sun and the wind, for example, and even battery storage, well, this is a huge net gain, a huge net positive for Australia's balance sheet. Rather than being a net importer of fossil fuels, we become a producer of the fuel that powers our cars. And not only do we become a producer, but we also avoid all the billions of dollars of healthcare costs that arise as a result of the toxic emissions from fossil fuel power plants, from burning gasoline and diesel. And there's so many other issues that I haven't even mentioned in this video. Now, I don't think that the government is not aware of what I just mentioned. Unless they're absolutely incredibly stupid, they must be aware that actually all of this transformation from fossil fuel powered cars and a fossil fuel electric industry, it actually won't end up costing Australia anything. It's probably, if anything, will be a net positive in terms of the overall benefits. And if you include all the costs that I mentioned, then I don't see how this could possibly be a negative for the Australian government. However, here's the problem. Australia loves taxes. We live on taxes. We're one of the most taxed countries in the world. And once you get it into your head, there's an idea for a tax or you have a tax in place, well, it's very hard to give up that tax. It's like a drug. It's like being a cocaine addict. You become addicted to the tax. It doesn't matter if that tax doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense to smoke crack cocaine, but people still do it. And the government, unfortunately, is addicted to the drug of taxing transportation. Now, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching.